Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurudevaya Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. A very special Hari Om to all of you once more, and welcome to the last of these lectures. The topic for today, which was chosen, is self and not self, non-self. Self in Sanskrit is called as Atma, and not self is called as Anatma. So where exactly does this topic fit into Vedanta? Self and not self, Atma and Atma. Well, this is a very interesting topic, a very interesting pair of words to study in Vedanta, and it falls under a big broad topic in Vedanta called as Viveka. Now this is a big word, important word, and we should study this word Viveka little bit. First of all, Viveka means, of course in Hindi or in some of the regional languages and all, they say Vivek. The proper Sanskrit word is Viveka. Viveka means discrimination. Discrimination. The ability to separate things out and to ascertain one thing as opposed to another thing. This is called as discrimination or Viveka. To separate out, to identify separately, to be able to clearly discern one thing from another. And this may sound very trivial, but it is not. It is very, very important, this Viveka. And this is actually one of the things which people lack very much. And especially if one is a sadhaka, spiritual aspirant, this is very important. It is of absolute importance. In life in general, because of the absence of Viveka, human beings find themselves in a lot of trouble, a lot of problems. We find ourselves in so many complications because of the absence of Viveka. Like, for example, simple things in everyday life. What is healthy food and what is unhealthy food? That discrimination to separate out healthy food from unhealthy food, even this simple thing, most human beings cannot do. That is why we have something called as Ayurveda, a whole Veda, Upaveda, which is dedicated to this thing. So one has to study the Ayurveda in order to develop this discrimination between healthy food and unhealthy food. And it is a very deep topic, you see. So in everyday life also, because people lack this power of discrimination or the ability to discriminate, we find ourselves in all sorts of trouble. Now you see, I'm just taking one example of food. Now if I cannot discriminate between healthy food and unhealthy food, I will go on eating unhealthy food because usually it is very tasty. And then what happened? Health complications. When health complications come, then family complications, because one member of the family now is unhealthy and cannot function properly. Then that puts a strain on all the other members of the family, and this person is not bringing an income, but he's depleting the income of everybody else and all. Then the health system becomes overburdened. Then, so many things. This just goes on and on. You see? So just one thing, to discriminate between healthy food and unhealthy food. To discriminate between all the regular things of life is a very, very important. So this discrimination is a very important thing, viveka, which has to be used in everyday ordinary life. And now, in the spiritual field, this viveka, discrimination, is of utmost importance, and therefore it is stressed on very heavily. All right. Now, second thing. Now, let me tell you a little bit about various types of discrimination in Vedanta. And why I'm going to tell you this is because all of them are related in some way to the discrimination between self and not self, or Atma and Atma Viveka. Self and not self. Atma and Atma Viveka, this is called. And this is perhaps the most important among the regular types of Viveka in Vedanta. So one type of Viveka which we hear about all the time in Vedanta is called as Nitya Viveka. Nitya Viveka means what? The person has to be able to discriminate or develop this power of discriminating between what is Nitya and what is Anitya. Nitya means that which is permanent, and what is Anitya? That which is transient, changing, metamorphosizing, over and over, fleeting. You see? So, if we look at this type of Viveka, what is Nitya Viveka, you will see that, really speaking, everything in the universe is changing. We know that. So everything in the universe which we see before us, it is all Anitya. You tell one thing which is not changing. So this is how this discrimination is to proceed. When one starts Nitya Viveka, this is how we proceed. We look, we observe, see the phenomena before us. Okay. Now, the basic and fundamental rule of the observable phenomena is it is all fleeting, changing, everything is changing, right? That is quite apparent. Nobody has to study any rocket science to know that. This is this first thing. Everything is changing around us. Yes, we are all changing. Actually, some people like that change also, and people actually use change conveniently also. Which conveniently we change our mind. We stand for one thing, and then when it suits us, we change our mind and we stand for something else, like that. People like all of these things. So change is going on in all the phenomena in front of us, right? Okay. So now, second thing, this is called Nitya Viveka. This is what we are doing first, because this is going to be helpful in Atma and Atma Viveka, which we are going to do after. So here now, separating Nitya from Anitya, the permanent from the temporary. So first thing, we observe everything is temporary, changing. Some things may last longer than others, that is okay, but it is still changing. Like the mountains, they stay for a long time. Many people come and go and the mountains are still there. But the mountains also, if you ask scientists, they'll tell you, geologists and all, they'll tell you, at one time Himalayas was ocean. So the ocean changed into the mountain. You see? Change. It may appear to be unchanging, but it is changing. Everything. Okay. Now, the second thing with this is, if something is going to change, there must be a substratum upon which it is changing. How? Well, we cannot know change. We cannot know change if we also do not know what is changelessness? If we are talking about in Viveka, these pairs of opposites, right? Nitya, Anitya means that which is permanent, that which is transient. Right? How are you able to talk about that which is transient, impermanent, if we do not know at the same time that which is permanent? In other words, somewhere in our mind, deep down, we have a concept, an idea, or some knowledge, something about what is changelessness. It is in reference to that changelessness we are able to talk about change. So if we did not know one side, we could not talk of the other side. So there is a changeless substratum. There is a changeless substratum, adhisthana, foundation, upon which all change is taking place. And if we did not know that instinctively, or innately, intrinsically, like that, if we did not know, we would not have known what is change. So this Nitya Anitya Viveka has to be given some time, we have to, it has to be given some effort. We have to go on doing, thinking, oh yes. It is like, when you go to see a movie, the screen remains fixed. But whatever is coming on that screen coming and going, like that. You see? So, there is a changeless screen and there's everything else which is changing on the screen. Well, in the very same way, in this universe, there are all things in front of us which is changing, but it is all happening on a changeless reality. And if you were to go back to last week's example of the ocean and the water, so in the ocean, there is an enormous amount of change happening. Every moment there is change, right, in the water. But it is all happening on a changeless substratum of H2O. Because no matter how many waves and bubbles and little ripples and whatever is formed in the ocean, H2O, which is the basic formula for water, that does not change. That remains unchanging. You see? So, in the relative example of water, there is something which is changeless, which is H2O, and there is something which is changing, which is ocean, waves, ripples, and all different things, right? Like that. So, like that, the world process before our eyes, this world process is also happening, and it is happening on a changeless reality. You see? And the reality word I am using now, but this will come after. So, Nitya Anitya Vivek. Now, see, this is one type of Viveka which is there, which has to be studied by all of us, because it leads up to Atma and Atma Viveka, which is to come, self and not self. So, this is one way. Another type of Viveka, which is very common in Vedanta, it's called as Dvaita Advaita Viveka. Dvaita Advaita Viveka. Now, what is a Dvaita Advaita Viveka? Well, it is like this. Dvaita means two. Advaita means one. So, the discrimination between two and one. Now, what is this? Very often you will hear that this world is made up of the pairs of opposites, right? We hear that also. So, Dvandva Sansar. So, we have joy and sorrow. We have rich and poor. We have tall and short. We have all the hot and cold and all victory and defeat and so many various types of dualities, or pairs of opposites we know in the universe. Okay. So now, with regard to these pairs of opposites, people ask the question, how far do these pairs of opposites go? So is there God and some other being? And many people say, yeah, but there is one God and there is one Satan. These two fellows are always at loggerheads, like that. So that the pairs of opposites is taken all the way to God also. There's always one good guy and cops and robbers. This cops and robbers thing is taken all the way to God also. So this fellow is sitting here on a high throne and he's a good guy. He's called God. And then other side there's a fellow wrecking havoc all over the world and doing all. And sometimes he appears to be more powerful than this guy also. And he has to spend most of his time trying to combat this fellow. So anyway, so these pairs of opposites are there ordinarily in front of us, we know, but people take these pairs of opposites all the way up to God and all that. So really speaking, the question arises then, so is there duality with regard to God, with regard to the higher reality, you see? And in Vedanta, the answer for that is clearly no. There no duality. Now, why Vedanta does not accept this idea of duality? But we experience duality in front of us. Yeah, you experience so many things. We experience so many things, but the things which we experience, which we see with our senses, perceive with our senses, when we do a little bit of inquiry and analysis, we realize that our senses deceive us. Very simple examples I tell. Now, when you see the moon, you see it this big, right? Or the sun, you see it this big. But we know it is not that big. You see? So, the senses really cannot give true or correct knowledge. They may give some knowledge which may be relatively true. That is okay. Like this thing is orange. This is orange. That's relatively true. Blood is red. The eyes tell. Blood is red. So relatively true. And when you look at blood under the microscope, it is yellow. You see. So like that, the senses may give relative knowledge, knowledge which is relatively true, but they cannot give knowledge which is absolutely true. So, really, with our senses, we see a duality. That does not mean to say that there is a duality. So, this Dvaita Advaita Viveka is to proceed like this now. With regard to God and the universe which we see, you think. If we accept two, right? God and anything else, we accept two. So there will be God or the reality on one side, and there will be universe or Satan or something, whatever, on the other side, right? If we accept, that means to say you are positing two entities. If you posit two entities, it means to say that the two entities will have to be limited. Because here, wherever God is, the universe cannot be. And wherever the universe is, God cannot be. If you say, no, but God pervades the universe, then what you are effectively saying really is one entity. If you just take your statement to its logical conclusion, God pervades the universe, you are actually saying that there is only one entity, which is God. Because if He is pervading every iota of the universe, but then that means there is only God. But if you are saying there is God and there is universe, there are two entities, you are positing duality, and in any duality, one thing will always limit the other thing. Means where this is, this cannot be. And where this is, this cannot be. Like that. One limits the other. So wherever there is a duality, one will limit the other. So now, if we posit a duality with regard to God, so there is God and universe, or God and any other thing, right? That means the other thing will limit God. Because wherever the other thing is, God is not there. So in Vedanta, we cannot accept a God which is limited. We cannot accept a reality which is limited. Why? That is a very simple thing. If you accept a reality which is limited, okay, it is limited in what regard? It is limited in terms of space, let us say. So that reality occupies a certain space and the universe occupies another space. Oh, so it is limited in terms of space. Well, the moment you accept its limitation in one regard, in one aspect, here in terms of space, well, that is a slippery slope. Slippery slope means what? That is going to spiral. There's a downward spiral. Because now we don't know what are its other limitations. So you accept a limitation of God. There's God and there's world. The world has limited God. And now when you accept one limitation, it is going to result in, when you start thinking now logically, that could result in every other type of limitation. You see? You see, for example, let us say, okay, so we accept God is here, world is there, they're in two different space. Okay, so since God is not in the world, and see, you can't let your mind now take any kind of middle ground. Okay, God is in some parts of the world, maybe in temples only. Then you will open yourself to a whole lot of other crazy conclusions, right? But anyway, God is here in this space and the world is here in this space. Okay, that means to say, now since God is here in this space and the world is there in this space, and God is not there in this world, then there will be many things which are going on in the world which God may not know. So now there is limitation of his knowledge now also. Or there are many things which are going on in the world which God cannot do anything about because he did not know. So there is limitation of his power now. So you will get into all sorts of things, all sorts of problems. So the moment we accept a duality of God and world, these two, one limits the other, and that limitation will lead to problems on both sides. Now the world also will be limited. This world will not be infinite. It will be limited in so many ways. And God will be limited by the world. And one problem will lead to another. So this duality of God and world, which is a traditional duality in religion and spirituality, is not accepted in Vedanta. What is the relationship between God and world? Very simple. That is like snake and rope. Snake and rope, yes. Without snake and rope, no Vedanta. And this is the most important example in Vedanta. What? Where is the snake and where is the rope? Think. Well, are they in two different spaces? Is the snake in a different space than the rope? Never. The snake and rope, they're in exactly one and the same space, isn't it? And one is wholly dependent on the other. How many things are there also now in snake and rope? Think. How many things are there in snake and rope? Well, you may see two things. What? One thing is called a snake. And another thing, with regard to that, it is very difficult to see the two at the same time. Correct or not? If you see snake, that means you are not seeing rope. And if you see rope, that means you are not seeing snake. So we may say that there are two things, but really speaking, there is one thing there only. One is just appearance of an unreal Nama Rupa. And last week we saw this, Nama Rupa Prasarana. Abdhau Penadivat Sarva. Nama Rupa Prasarana. The snake is just a mere name and form appearing on a deeper reality. The deeper reality here being rope. So the appearance of a name and form, and the name and form we said is not real. We saw that very elaborately last week. So, what is the relationship between God and the world? Well, just like snake and rope, the world is a mere appearance, nama rupa, on the reality, on the absolute reality. So now, in the example of snake and rope, how many things were there? One thing only. Not two things. The existence principle from the rope is lent to the snake. Therefore, you see the existence of a snake. It is lent to the snake. It's lent to the nama rupa of snake. And when the existence of the rope is discovered, the nama rupa of snake disappears. In the very same way, the existence of the reality is lent to this universe. And when the existence of the reality is discovered, world with in the dualistic form as we know it, that world disappears as a separate, unconnected reality or entity. We saw that also. So what happens? Delusion goes away. Illusion may stay, but delusion goes. I don't see the world as separate from me, unconnected to me, separate from God, unconnected to God. Is a something separate and, away from God and all that. That understanding comes that the world is nothing but a appearance on the reality, and the appearance is nama rupa, which is borrowing its satta or its existence from the absolute substratum. This is the idea. So in the final analysis, in Vedanta, what is accepted is not God and a separate world. There is no such thing in Vedanta. It is reality and a world which is appearing in that reality. That is all. So this is what is called a Advaita Viveka. See, now this is a discrimination between what we call as duality and non-duality. But this has to be thought of in this way. It's called Advaita Viveka. Now see, in Vedanta there's also what we call as Panchakosha Viveka. Panchakosha Viveka means in this body there are 5 koshas, layers with personality. And then beyond the 5, see, the first there's Annamaya Kosha, this body. Annamaya means that which is made up of food. Then Pranamaya means all the physiological level of this being. All breathing and circulation and all things going on inside the body. It's a different layer, you see. So why are all of these given? So slowly, that is called Chandrashakhan Nyaya. Chandrashakhan Nyaya means we first we see the branch, and then we see between those 2 branches, between those 2 branches you see the moon. So you first use what is closer, what we know, as a pointer to what is beyond. So you use the body, then we go to Pran, so Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya means all the emotional part of the being. Then Vijnanamaya, then Anandamaya, like that. We go. This is called Panchakosha Viveka. We separate body, separate prana, then body. Prana means in English is what? Prana is vital airs. Vital airs. We have big words in English. Vital airs means the physiological level of the personality. Then we have the emotional level. Then we have the intellectual level. Then we have beyond that the bliss sheet. But when you go to sleep, by the pure ignorance. And therefore you hear ignorance is bliss. Have you heard? So like this, we now start with the gross level of the personality, and we go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And now you say, oh, so then there is one to whom all of these belong. There is one to whom, who is the seer of all of these. So that one is the one which is beyond. We'll come just now to that again. You see, so there's the Pancha Kosha Viveka. So different. Then we have, see, the different types of Viveka which is given there. Discriminative exercises in Vedanta. And then we have Tattva Viveka. Tattva Viveka. And it is this, when we come to this Tattva Viveka, then we come now to this Atma and Atma Viveka. I am not exhausted all type of Vivekas. Eh? Don't think. Vedanta is about Viveka only. So many types of Vivekas. Anvaya Vyatireka Viveka. No end to all of this. So these are all complex things. But now, here, with regard to what our topic is, Tattva Viveka. Huh? And this Tattva Viveka means discrimination between real and unreal. This is our topic. Now, just now we were talking about Nitya, Anitya, Dvaita, Advaita. Now, all these different types of Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka and all, right? All of them are pointing to something which is called as real. And this is therefore this topic of Tattva Viveka. Now, what is Tattva Viveka? Our Bhagavan Shankaracharya deals with this Tattva Viveka very nicely. Tattva Viveka kaha. When he asks, and then what is this Tattva Viveka? Now you see this topic will unfold like this. Tattva Viveka kaha. What is Tattva Viveka? He says, Atma Satyam. Tadanyat Sarvam Mithya iti. This is Tattva Viveka. Really? That sounds like all big, highfalutin words. No. So now see. Atma Satyam. Atma alone is real. Anything other than Atma is Mithya. Mithya means unreal. It doesn't mean to say that it doesn't exist. It means it is unreal. That is all. So Atma is real. Everything other than Atma is unreal. This is Tattva Viveka. Oh. So in Tattva Viveka, what is introduced now is Atma and Tadanyat. Atma and everything other than Atma. So this is self and everything other than self. This is what is introduced in this Tattva Viveka. And this is our topic, because the topic is self and not self. So, what is this Atma and what is this other more common word, which is Atma, Anatma, which is Atma, the self, and which is not self. You know, if even from an ordinary standpoint, right? If you think about the word self, just now we'll get into technical words and all, but just think now from ordinary standpoint. If you think about the word self, if you say myself, how many people are going? Well, 5 of us are going. 1, 2, 3, 4, and myself. Oh. Now think, when we say, I am also going, myself. Now, when I say myself, am I referring to this body? Well, if I refer to the body, that means to say, I consider myself to be this body. I am nothing more than... Am I taking my thoughts with me when I go? Well, yeah, I suppose they'll come along as well. right? So it's not that I am just myself is not just the body, because my thoughts are going to go with me as well. All my prana and all this panchakosha vivek which you were doing just now, no? Annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, vijnanamaya, anandamaya. They are all coming with me. Now see the language also. They're all coming with me. So the five of them is not me. The ordinary language, this is what I'm telling. If you just stop, think from ordinary standpoints also, the use of language, all five of them are coming with me or not? Well, yes. And if I say all these five are coming with me, that means these five are different from me. So when I use the word self, myself, then what am I referring to then? So quite often I tell, really speaking, we don't need all sorts of difficult language and difficult, Sanskrit words and this. We don't need, if you just think like this from an ordinary standpoint, using the language which you use every day. Think about what you say. I say my hand, my body. If I say my hand or my body, that means to say there is the one who is the owner of the thing. Like for example, my watch. You're not the watch. You see. Therefore you say my watch, my car, my house. In the same way, my foot, my hand. Then if I can say my whatever it is, that means there is me and there is the thing. So from ordinary standpoint also, in ordinary language, if we study it well, we'll realize, oh, there is something which is me as different from what is mine. So this word self, when I use, I am not referring to any of these things. I am referring to who is what is called in Sanskrit as Atma, self, which is the owner of all of these things, or the substratum of all of these things, the adhishtan, the foundation on which they stand. And all the things which we experience and see in front of us, they are called as not self. They call us the not self. So self and not self. Now, Bhagavan Shankaracharya follows in the wake of what he just said to explain now all of these words, which is the most important word there. The most important word is called as Atma. So when he says Tattva Vivekaha Kaha, Atma Satyam. Atma is real. Tadanyat, anything other than Atma is Mithya. So let us first study these words a little bit, then we will continue to see, because in the next passage he will talk about what is Atma, and that is our goal. Our goal is not to study Anatma, to realize I am Anatma. That is not the goal. The goal is to realize I am Atma. I am Atma, not I am Atma. I am Atma is Sanskrit. There's something else. Anyway, that is because I have a Trinidad accent, so there is confusion between those two terms. Anyway, so now see. Let's see. Atma Satyam. This is first phrase. Atma Satyam. The Atma is that which is Satyam. Satyam means real. Satyam also means that which stands in the three periods of time. Trikala tishtati iti sat. That which stays in the three periods of time, same, doesn't change. Now see, just now Nitya Viveka, changeless. That is now applicable here. That Atma is that which is real, means what now? Real means what? Never goes away. Real means never changes, never wanes, never waxes, nothing. Same, stays same all the time. Sama, see, sameness, samatvam. It remains same. Then what is Anatma? it says, Tat Anyat, everything other than Atma, that is called as Anatma. And the name which is given here is a very interesting word, very important word also. It is called as Mithya. Mithya means that which is unreal. It doesn't mean that which does not exist. It means that which is unreal only. It like the snake on the rope. If the snake did not exist, you would not have seen it. That means the snake is there in some regard. In some regard, it is there. But it is unreal. It is an apparition. It is just an appearance. Though it has some level of, it falls in a category between existence and non-existence. That category is called as Mithya. So the world before us, the entire universe before us in Vedanta is called as Mithya. It is unreal, though you may see it. Now if you study, right, and you go back to the snake example or any example which you like, but here the snake example is very common. So if you go back to the snake example, every iota of the snake is really made up of rope, because for the snake to appear, it must have existence. But it gets the existence from where? The unreal snake gets its existence from the real rope. It borrows temporarily existence from the real rope. In other words, the unreal appearance must have a real substratum, a real foundation or adhisthana. So, for it to exist, there must be a real substratum. And in really speaking, fundamentally, at the deepest level, what really is existing there is the real substratum. Because when the snake disappears, the rope doesn't. The rope remains. So the rope is the one which is Nitya, the snake is the one which is Anitya. It comes and goes. You see? So today you walk by and you see a snake, and then when you inquire, you realize it's a rope. So the snake disappeared, but rope remained. And tomorrow when you come back, you forgot that it was a rope yesterday, and today again you see snake. So it has appeared again. It's coming and another person comes and sees snake. So the snake reappeared. Like that. So it's coming and going. So that is called Anitya. But the Anitya Vastu, the unreal thing, the impermanent thing, that thing has to get existence from somewhere, from something real. So that thing gets its existence from the real, in this case, rope. In the very same way now, the Mithya Jagat which we see in front of us, the world which is appearing, this apparent world, is getting its existence from where? From the Atma. It gets its existence from Atma. And it is a mere appearance. Now, we should not also discount in any way appearances, because appearances is what we all live by. When we see the snake, though it may be an appearance, it may be unreal, it may be whatever you say, Mithya, right? That appearance has the potential to create immense, immeasurable catastrophe. Because when you see the snake, you become so scared, you run away, and in your fright, you run onto a street in which there's traffic, and one car swerves to avoid hitting you and hits another car, and that other car swerves and hits another one, and you, all caused by what? An unreal snake. So, an appearance may be unreal or whatever we say it is, but it has potential to create lots of things, you see. And the whole Mithya Jagat which we are seeing in front of us is all Nama Rupa, names and forms, and they are all existing on the substratum of reality, but we are all living in a world of names and forms, and we take them to be real, and then so many other things are created. That goes on and on. Okay, so Mithya is not to be discounted. Mithya is to be studied, and then actually Mithya becomes a very wonderful thing if we think about it. How that reality has this great power to appear as this wondrous universe of names and forms. So what greatness and glory and beauty and all things in that reality to appear as all of this. In the morning when we get up, you see such a beautiful sunrise. Just now when I was walking into the door here, I saw a pair of parrots flying by. And how birds can fly through the air and we cannot. How this universe is structured in such a wonderful way. There's so many amazing things which we see, all Nama Rupa. So the Mithya Jagat which we see in front of us is not discounted in any way in Vedanta. We see it as a manifestation of that reality. Though we call it Mithya, we see it as a manifestation of that reality. And if it has manifested in this infinite variety, infinite colors, infinite beauty, infinite intricacy, and so many, if it has manifested as that, think about the great power lying in that reality to manifest as this. And this is just one possibility of its manifestation. How many countless possibilities. So it all leads back to the substratum. In other words, what we see here in front of us and call as Mithya in Vedanta is really a means to lead back to the greatness and power of that reality. All right. Why I'm saying this is before I continue is many people say, Vedantis, they go on saying this world is Mithya, it is not to be taken seriously, and this and that. We don't talk like that. That is why it is also very important that a Vedanti should also be a very good Bhakta. The Vedanti, if he doesn't develop in himself Bhakti also, he will become a dry Vedanti. He will see, oh, this world is all Mithya, it is not to be taken seriously, and he'll sit himself like a stone. That is not what is taught. Okay, now we were saying now Atma Satyam, the Atma alone is real. Tad Anyat, anything other than the Atma is called as unreal, Mithya. Now, in next passage of Bhagavan Shankaracharya, okay, for those who are listening and I'm saying next passage and Shankaracharya and this and that, and this comes in what is called his Tattva Bodha. Tattva Bodha is his ABC text on Vedanta. Vedanta ABC text is called as Tattva Bodha, and obviously what we are doing at Tattva Viveka, it is this Tattva Viveka which is the Viveka between Atma and Anatma, self and not self or non-self. In English you can say anyone anyway. So it is the Atma is real and anything other than the Atma is not. Now the next logical question will be, what is this Atma? So in the next passage he says, and he tries to define or tries to point out Atma. This is as much as we could do in Vedanta. Our Puja Gurudev used to say, to define the self is to defy the self. Or to define God is to defile God. Really, the reality is very difficult to define. You see, you think about defining. Defining means you mark it apart from, delineate that thing. Well, we need the power of the reality to delineate also, to mark apart, to define. Means the intellect is going to define, but we need the power of the reality for the intellect to do whatever it is doing. So that is really the power behind the intellect. How you'll define. That is like this hand trying to catch this hand. It is not possible. You see? So the intellect trying to catch God, to define God, is not possible. So in the next passage, we can't say that he defines Atma. He tries to indicate, point out Atma in the next passage. So what is this Atma? Atma kaha? That is the next question which he asks there. What is Atma? So then he tells Atma is, now see this. First I'll tell it in Sanskrit, then we'll see those words. I have to tell in Sanskrit, because that is the source. Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktaha. This is first pointer to Atma. Then next, Panchakoshatitaha San. Second pointer to, now only pointing, don't think it. Then Avasthatraya Sakshi. Avasthatraya Sakshi. Then Satchidananda Swarupa San. Swarupaha San. Yes Tishtati Sa Atma. This is Atma. Oh, such big thing is Atma. This sounds bewildering, But no, it is simple now. Don't get bewildered, Just listen to that. The Atma is that which is other than. Vyatirikta is the word used here. Other than, beyond, aside, apart from. Vyatirikta. What? The Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharira. So now, just now we are seeing, and it will come in the same passage again. Panchakosha Viveka. The 5 sheaths going deeper and deeper. Well, for those who don't like 5, which is a big number, there is 3 levels of the personality, right? 3 levels of the personality, which is perhaps easier to see. First is what's called Sthula Sharira, this gross body. Then Sukshma Sharira, everything inside is gross body. Means all the mind, the emotions, all your memories and likes and dislikes and all things which are happening inside. You know that, right? This is called, what is inside? We sometimes call as Antakarana. So there is this gross body, Sthula Sharira. Then there is Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body which is inside, which is Antakarana sometimes called. Then beyond that, it is called as Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira means the level of vasanas, what Puja Gurudev used to have on his board, or level of ignorance actually. Karana Sharira. Again, ignorance inside, in which is stored a million things. Ajnan is the cause for all that is going to happen in our life. So it is there in the level of Ajnan. How? See. Right now I am talking, you are listening. Okay. I hope you are listening. So I am talking, you are not talking. Okay. When I am finished talking, you will start talking, isn't it? Now, just in about half an hour, 45 minutes, you will start talking. Now, do you know now what you are going to be saying? But no, you don't know what in 45 minutes from now, you don't know what the circumstances will be and what you will be saying. Something might arise, the phone might ring, and then depending on who is on the other side, you will speak different words. If it's a child, you will speak different words. If you're a boss, you will speak different words and all like that, right? But you don't know what you're going to be saying. Okay, this is the first thing. You don't know. It doesn't mean I'm ignorant. I don't know. But whatever you're going to be saying in 45 minutes from now, that thing has to already be inside of you or not. Of course, because you are not going to be saying something which you totally don't know, or in some language which you don't know and all. That you're going to be saying it in a language which is already inside of you. You're certainly not going to be saying it in Greek. Of course, unless you know Greek and you're speaking to a Greek person. So the thing is inside, first of all, but it is unknown. And like that, everything I'm going to be doing, everything I'm going to be saying, all that is inside of me already, but I don't know. I don't know it. Right now, I don't know what I'm going to be saying. That is in the level, a layer of the personality called as Ajnan. This is what we call as Karana Sharira. That is going to be the cause for your future action and words and all that you're going to be doing. Karana Sharira. So now there's Sthula Sharira, is gross body, Sukshma Sharira, which is the subtle body, and Karana Sharira, which is the causal body. Beyond, it says, that Vyatirikta, that which is beyond these three, that is called as Atma. Because again, it is my Karana Sharira, my causal body, my Sukshma Sharira, my subtle body, my Sthula Sharira, my gross body, isn't it? My. So the one who is the me, who is the owner of these three, that is called as Atma. You see, my three bodies. So the me who is owning these three bodies and saying they are mine, that is Atma. So this is the first way to point out that Atma. Now in that same passage, he points out Atma again. What is that? Panchakoshatitah san. That which is beyond the 5 sheets, which I was telling you before, because this is one of the type of viveka which is given there. So it is that which is beyond the 5 sheets, in the same way as we separated this personality just now into 3 layers, 3 parts. You can separate out even further into 5 parts, and that which is beyond these 5, it is called as Atma, which we already saw. And Avastha Traya Sakshi, the Atma is the witness of the 3 states of existence. The self is the witness of these 3 states of existence. So this we have not studied. So now let us think about this a little bit. The self is that which is the witness. Sakshat Ikshapeti, Sakshi, which just witnesses all 3. Uninvolved. Observer. They call it witness. It does not need also any medium to witness. It is just there. Like for example, the light in this room, which is the cause for all things to be seen in this room. If there were no light in the room, what would be there? It will be total darkness and nothing will be seen. You see? So the light is, in terms of seeing in this room, the witness of all things in the room. Itself, not witnessed, but the witnesser of all things. Or the witness of all things. I don't know if there is witness, a word in English. Now, Avasthatraya Sakshi. What is this Avasthatraya? The 3 states of existence. Think there is a waking state. Now this is waking state. We are all in now waking state, where I experience things through these 5 senses. This is called as waking state. I hope you are in waking state. Jagrad Avastha. If you are not in Jagrad Avastha, please, well, I can't tell you anything also. Because if you are not in this Jagrad, if there is somebody there who is seeing somebody who is not in Jagrad Avastha, please wake them up. See, if you are sitting next to somebody in the temple or something, just do like that and check. See if that fellow is in Jagrad Avastha. He is in the waking state. So waking state is called the first state of existence, where I experience all things through these senses. Okay. Eyes and ears and all of this. Then the next state of existence, which is the more common state of existence, called the swapna avastha. That is called as the dream state, because there is something called daydreaming. Have you heard of that? And most people are either night dreaming or daydreaming, because people like to dream. And because others know that, they also take advantage of that. Therefore, you'll see big companies. We will sell you a dream, or you have your dream home, your dream car. Have you heard of it? So they're encouraging you now. In other words, they're socializing you in a way, grooming you to dream. Dream about this car. Dream about this home. So you go on dreaming, and one day your dream will become reality, or we will make your dream reality. Like all these advertisements and everything is there. So the whole world actually is all the time in dream state, whether it is daydream or night dream. Because in the night time also, science also tells, let us say we sleep 5 hours. Well, out of that 5 hours, only short time, very short time, is in deep sleep, which is the third state. Deep sleep. Most of that 5 hours in dream only. On and on it goes. You see? So, some people, of course, remember their dreams and some don't. That's a different matter altogether. But a long period of that 5 hours is in dream. So, daydream, night dream. Now, what is this dream? Where these senses, they are not perceiving this world. And that is why, see, I'll just give you an example. So, you're sitting and you're listening to a lecture, right? You're sitting and listening to a lecture. Then, suddenly, your mind wanders away and you start thinking about something. And then that lecturer, whoever is giving that lecture, he cracks a joke. Then everybody laughs. Then your mind comes back there. Then you ask the other person, what he said? What did he say? That means what? You were daydreaming. What do you think? Because your senses were not, your eyes were not seeing this person, your ears were not here, logged on to this, whatever is going on here. So, they had gone somewhere else. So, the world in front of you were not being perceived by the senses. So, they were not in Jagrada Avastha. You were there in Swapna Avastha, dream state. And you think how often this happens. And today, this is being encouraged more and more and more. Where the mind is not encouraged to stay cognizant of what is right in front of it, but the mind is encouraged to go onto something else. And therefore, there are so many, like I'll give you simple, very common example, which is so prevalent today. What is that? We have come up with numerous devices and means to take our mind away when we are driving. Now what? You're performing an activity. You're driving, right? Down the highway. So we have come up with memory sticks and CDs and all we put there, and we listen to a lecture. So the lecture is talking about, like for example, this lecture is talking about Atma and Atma Viveka. Now, while driving, you are thinking about Atma and Atma Viveka. That means your senses and all, they are not where you are. It has gone into Atma and Atma Viveka. And like that, we listen to music, and of Atma and Atma Viveka might still have some benefit, but then we go and listen to all the other things. And while driving, or we have some little device in your ear, a non-hand-held device stuck in your ear there, and then on a little screen there on your dash comes up the name of the person who is calling, and then he tells a whole conversation, and you like that we go, and then at the same time while doing all that, eating also mumfuli and with peanuts and you have on the side there something to drink, and so this thing in the air, then that fellow passes everybody on the shoulder, then you make a comment there also, and the other person says, what did you say? No, I'm not talking to you. Like that, how many things go, and the mind really just swirling, and that attention, and being in the now, being with, really engaged with things in front, 100% and all that. That is called real waking. Jagrada avastha. Really, we are training our, and most of the time training and in the state of swapna avastha, where the senses are not really perceiving what is really in front of me. That it's a brief interjection of the senses, or a brief a brief engagement of the senses in what is in front of me, and I'm gone back. Like, for example, I'm talking to the person there on the phone, and then this person passes on the shoulder, and then a brief engagement of the senses in that thing, and I'm gone back to the conversation. Like that, you see. So this state is most pervasive state, I'm telling you, this swapna avastha. And then comes our favorite state, what that is called as deep sleep state. Sleep state, when you go there, and people have sound sleep because sound is coming most of the time. And what happened? You make the sound, you get the sleep, and everybody in the house get the sound. And especially in our Chinmaya mission, our Swamis, they are very good at having sound sleep. So therefore, when we go to camps, and when we go to different places and our Swamis are there, I make sure that I don't stay any close to any Swamiji, because that Swamiji will have all the sleep and I will have all the sound in the night. So they call us sound sleep. So sound sleep means I am not waking and I am not dreaming also. I go into another state where there is what? Blanket ignorance. It's a blanket ignorance, pure ignorance. So now these are the three states of existence. And the self, it says, avasthatraya sakshi. The self is that which is the witness of all these three states. It means to say, behind all these three states, the same self is there, witnessing all the states. So in waking state, I know these things. In dream state, I know all the fanciful things which are made up in the dream. When I go to sleep in the night, I dream this thing and that thing. So I am the witness of all those things. And in deep sleep state, what do I know? I know the absence of all things. I know that there is nothing. I know the absence of everything in deep sleep. So it is always I know. I know the waking state, I know the dream state, I know the deep sleep state also. And therefore, he is called as Sakshi. The Atma is called, or the self is called as Sakshi of the three states. I know. Okay. So, in the description or in the pointing out of the Atma is called as Avasthatraya Sakshi, the witness of these three states. Now, this was pointing out by different type of lakshanas, the Atma. But now the Atma is pointed out in the next phrase by Swarupa lakshana. Its own Swarupa, its very essence is pointed out in the next phrase in that passage in Tattva. What is in the next phrase? Says Satchidananda Swarupa San. Satchidananda Swarupa. Its nature is Satchit Ananda. So the nature of the self is now pointed, its very essence is pointed out in the last phrase of that passage. What is its nature? The nature of the self is, it is Sat Chit Ananda. So it means which self? Myself. In beginning I started telling her, when I say myself, I'm not talking about this body, mind, intellect, or the panchakosha, or all of this, what you call it, the three bodies, Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. No, I'm talking about the owner of them. So that owner is the self. That self is now pointed out by its own Swarupa, its own essence. What is it? Sat Chit Ananda. And what is this? Sat means existence. Chit means consciousness. and Ananda means bliss. Its nature is existence, consciousness, bliss. And these are not three different things actually. Existence is consciousness. Consciousness is existence. And by nature, both are bliss only. This has to be given a lot of thought if one is to really understand this Atma. These three words have to be studied very well. Now see, existence. First word. Everybody who is listening, think, do you exist or not? Well, my existence is a prerequisite even for hearing this question, and also for deliberating on the question, and also for answering the question. If I did not exist, I could not hear the question. I could not deliberate on the question, nor could I have replied to the question. First, I have to exist, isn't it? In fact, existence precedes everything in the universe. Existence really is the fundamental substance of the universe. And that existence is also the fundamental substance of my own being. I exist, and not only that, I know that I exist. Because suppose I had existed and I did not know that I exist, then what is the use of that existence? Suppose I existed and I did not know, and nobody knew. That and none is same. That and non-existence is same. So I exist and I know that I exist. That know is actually consciousness. I am conscious of the fact that I exist. So the first thing is I exist and I know that I exist. Suppose the knowledge of existence did not exist. I know that I exist. Suppose that knowledge did not exist. Well, there will be no saying that I know that I exist. So the knowledge also exists. Therefore, we say knowledge and existence, they are one and same. Not only do I exist, but I also know that I exist. Of course, this has many other implications, things to think about. But here, just to stick to this, my nature is existence, and my nature is knowledge. That's what we call as chit, consciousness. Knowledge and chit and consciousness, they are all one thing we are talking about. I exist and I know that I exist. And really, how come I don't feel Ananda of both of them? Well, because I am too much engaged in Nama Rupa, names and forms. I am not engaged in the substratum of myself. Anybody who can go beyond Nama Rupa and engage in his own self, in the substratum of his own being, he will immediately feel all bliss. The bliss is the nature of the self. Immediately the person will feel that bliss only. Because the Satchit is only bliss. But right now, I am not engaged in abiding in my Satchit. I am engaged in Nama Rupa. It is like on the table there is sugar here, and next to the sugar there is what do you call that? Vinegar. There is vinegar next to the table, next to the sugar, and instead of tasting sugar, I am engaged in vinegar. Then what type of taste you will get? So, existing on the substratum of myself is Nama Rupa, but I am engaged in Nama Rupa. Therefore, in our Mundaka Upanishad, two birds are described. One bird is, two birds on a tree. and one bird is eating off the fruits of this tree. And some of the fruits are sour, some bitter, some sweet, like that, And the other bird sits quietly. Dvasuparna, so which will be Dvasuparna. Now, this two birds really is an indication of the one who is the worldly jiva, who is engaging in all the nama rupa. And then what will be in the nama rupa? Some bitter, some sweet, some like that. And the other bird who sits quietly in the self, he sits in the bliss of his own self. He will experience the bliss of Sat and Chit. So Satchidananda Swarupa San Yastishtati Sa Atma. That which is of the nature of Satchidananda, pure existence, consciousness, bliss, that is called self. Anything other than that, which is called as Nama Rupa, is called as not self. Nama Rupa is not self. It's Anatma. Okay. Now, this is Atma and Atma Viveka or Tattva Viveka. Tattva Viveka is the topic. Viveka on the Tattva reality is really Atma and Atma Viveka. The discrimination between what is myself, my own existence, consciousness, bliss, Nitya, as opposed to all Nama Rupa. Okay. All right. Now, there are many things which have been said, and you have to go and reflect. And don't think that in 3 lectures on Vedanta that you will understand and internalize all of it. Yeah? You study slowly and move along on the path. Now, there are some questions which have been asked. Let's see now, what are these questions? What is the reality of time in Vedanta? Reality of time. Well, time and space and every other observable thing in Vedanta is Anatma. It is Nama Rupa. It is transient, impermanent, coming and going. Because that time is relative. When joy is there, time flies. When sorrow is there, time stands still, as though, isn't it? So it is an observable phenomena. It is like every other thing, like any other thing. Object of the world, time and space and causation and so many things, karma, reincarnation, everything. They are all observable things. And so it is like any other object of the world. Jagat, or world, includes time and space and every other thing. Okay. What is the proof of God in Vedanta? What is the proof of God? Well, this is a very simple thing. I asked you in the beginning, I asked you during this lecture today, do you exist or not? So the proof of the existence of God in Vedanta is your own existence. You are the proof. Because if you can claim existence, you see, if you can say, I exist, this thing exists or not? Yes. Show me something which does not exist. Well, you can't. Everything in front which we see in front of us, in whatever form, it may exist in the form of mithya, an appearance or what. But it is participating in the principle of existence in some form. So, that existence in Sanskrit we call as Sat. And that is what we call, you see, the word God is a loosely used word. That we call as reality. Reality or self, that existence. And your existence is the proof. That is all. I exist, and that is enough. About God sitting in the sky or in some loka or some other place and all that, we have no, what you call, proof. Nobody has any proof. And we are not in Vedanta concerned about God sitting in the sky. We are concerned about the reality which is called as existence. So the proof of the existence of God, God here meaning reality, is your own existence. What is the relationship between Brahma and the world? Brahma or Brahman? Brahman. Okay, so I dealt with that during this lecture only. It is the same as the relationship between rope and snake. See, there is an existing fundamental reality called as rope, and on that there is the appearance of a snake. The appearance borrows its existence from rope. The snake borrows its existence from rope. In the very same way, Jagat, the whole universe, is the appearing reality on the fundamental reality. And the fundamental reality is that which doesn't come or go. It is Nitya Vastu. It doesn't come or go. It is always there. On that is appearing the Jagat, the world. So the relationship between the world and Brahman is, the world is an appearance on Brahman. Just like waves and ripples and bubbles and froth and all that is an appearance on H2O. The whole activity of the ocean coming and going and names and forms, it is really an appearance on H2O. Okay. So really there is only one fundamental reality in the ocean, which is called as water, H2O. All the other things are appearances. So H2O exists, and its existence does not depend on waves. But if there were no H2O, there could be no such thing as waves. So the waves depend on H2O. H2O can exist without waves. Its existence does not depend on waves. So Brahman's existence does not depend on this Jagat. But the Jagat's existence, the world's existence, depends on Brahman. So that relationship of dependence and independence also is there. What is creation from the point of view of Vedanta? i.e., what is the cause of the universe? So in Vedanta, please remember this thing. We use some very, and I touched on this before, on the first day, I think, or maybe second week. In Vedanta, we do not accept creation. Please understand this thing. There is no such thing as creation. Last week I told you that if there were to be a creation, you will not be able to explain countless things. And therefore the words which we use in Vedanta, this Jagat is Anadi. Anadi means beginningless. There was not a time when it began and any such thing. It is beginningless. So when the question is, what is creation from the point of view of Vedanta? What is the cause? So the cause, if you want to use a word, the cause is ignorance. The cause of a Jagat is ignorance. Once, okay, and I'll tell you what we mean by that. If you see the appearance of a snake on a rope, and you ask, what is the cause? Follow the example first, then you will see the example of the Jagat also. You ask, what is the cause of the appearance of the snake on the rope? Well, very simple thing. It is the ignorance of the rope. If, when I came out onto the street and there's a rope lying there, if in the first instance I saw rope, means I am not ignorant of rope, I am cognizant of rope. In the first instance, then where is the chance of seeing snake? I will not see any snake if in the first instance I know the rope. First, I have to be ignorant of rope. I have to not perceive the rope clearly. This is a rope. I have to be ignorant of what is that thing there. And only when I'm ignorant of the rope, then only there's a possibility of projecting a snake. So the cause really is ignorance. That is why our Puja Gurudev used to use, which has become a very famous phrase. First, there has to be a non-apprehension of reality, and then there is a misapprehension of reality. So there's a non-apprehension of reality and a misapprehension of reality as Jagat. Means first I have to not know God, not know the reality. Then I know Jagat. So the cause for the appearance of the universe in Vedanta? Ignorance. If I am, in the first instant, cognizant of the reality, then the whole Jagat will be that reality only. But because I am not cognizant of the reality, I see Jagat. I don't see reality. I am not cognizant of rope, I see snake. Like that. That is very deep and profound thing. You have to study that a little bit more. But it is not a creation. The Jagat is not something that started at a point in time. Because time is also part of the Jagat. Jagat has always been there. What is the concept of Ishwara in Vedanta? So, very simple thing. See, there's a human being, and the human being has some strength, okay? Can do things, correct? But I can sit without doing anything also. So there is no manifestation of my strength. Now, if I am sitting like that, not doing anything, somebody may wonder, is a statue or what? Not doing a thing. So a person can sit like a statue, not manifesting any of his inherent powers. So, when the reality is sitting, not manifesting any inherent powers, nothing is manifested, that reality is called as Brahman. When that reality is seen along with the manifestation of powers, capacity to do, the doer, that reality is seen as a doer is called as Ishwara. And technical language we say that reality conditioned by its own inherent power called as Maya is called as Ishwara. This is technical language. In ordinary language, when that reality is manifesting its own inherent powers is called as Ishwara. When it's not manifesting its own inherent powers, it's called as Brahman. That is all. It's two names for the same reality in different states. Brahman and Ishwara. What's the concept of Ishwara? What is the meaning of Saguna and Nirguna Brahman? What is the relationship and difference between Brahman and Ishwara? Well, Brahman and Ishwara I just told, right? But Saguna, Nirguna, Brahma means Nirguna Brahma means Brahman. Saguna Brahma means Ishwara. Again, technical words. So, when Brahman is there not manifesting any of its inherent powers, it's called as Nirguna Brahma. When that same Brahman is manifesting, is seen with all its manifestation, and it's manifesting all things as a doer, then that Brahman is called as Ishwara or Saguna Brahma. What is the relationship between Ishwara and all other manifestations of the Lord, such as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Krishna, Ityadi? Ityadi is not there. So, it is, I just told now, that Brahman, with its inherent powers, manifests, then he called as Ishwara. And then he manifests as what? He manifests as a, first he takes on these roles. As a manifester, he takes on the role as a sustainer of the world. He takes on the role of also destroying, or what we call as dissolving the world. Destroying is the wrong word. Dissolving the world. Now see, if you see these three processes, this is what is going on in the world, you know. You have things, see, this was not there 2 months ago. This flower was not there 2 months ago, isn't it? And in another 2 days again it will not be there. Then what? So 2 months ago it was not, or whenever, let's say 2 days ago, it was not manifest. It was there in an unmanifest state. It became manifest. Then it stayed for a little while. Then again it will go into unmanifest. So this is the process of the world, Jagat. These three processes which are going on in the world are just three functions of Ishwara. And in the capacity of manifesting, Ishwara is called as Brahma. In the capacity of sustaining for a little while, he is called as Vishnu. And in the capacity of dissolving, he is called as Shiva. Same Ishwara. In three different capacities is given different names, and also he is given different forms. Because Nama Rupa, they go together, name and form. So Ishwara as a manifester of the world is called as Brahmaji. He is given a name form. Ishwara as sustainer of the world is called as Bhagavan Vishnu. He is given name form. And Ishwara as the dissolver of things in the world is called as Shiva. So the same Ishwara taking on three different roles, three different names and forms. And this is the process which we see in the world which is going on. There's not much more going on in the world really. It is manifesting, things coming into manifestation, staying for a while, and then again going out. Just like every one of us. We manifested some years ago. We are here now. And pretty soon, we'll be demanifested. Before we do that, we deforest and de everything else. But we will demanifest also our own selves. All right. So these are the three names and forms of Ishwara only. And then further down the road, he takes different names and forms. Of course, all inherent power of Ishwara. All right. So this brings us now to the end of our series on Vedanta. A lot of things have been said. And of course, these videos will be available. So you can go back, look at them, listen, reflect. A lot of Vedanta is given. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Ponder and reflect. Contemplate. Okay. So I want to thank all the people who have organized these three lectures. Here we have a very good technical team who's been dedicated for the last 3 Sundays. And they're able to record and bring this thing to everybody. And so you can have time to reflect also. And I hope that you have gotten a few things in these last 3 weeks to reflect on and move forward in your spiritual journey. All right. So until we see again on this forum, Hari Om, and happy reflecting. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.